Hind, and welcome to deftalks on news that matters. This time, my subject is Indian diplomacy, which has been on fire for a little bit. It's not a big newsmaker, but what I want to discuss are the big newsmakers that put the diplomacy on fire. Let's start with India and Taiwan. In December 2021, the two countries actually began discussions on a free trade agreement focusing on semiconductors. And this is something that we all know. The Taiwan envoys to India are actually talking about the bilateral trade between the two countries hitting new highs at about $7 billion, and about 120 Taiwanese companies that are operating in India today with investments of about 2.3 billion, which have happened till 2021. This year, very interesting thing that the State Bank of India did was it raised about $300 million issuing Formosa bonds. That's the first time an Indian commercial entity has done something like this in link with Taiwan. Looking at the regional neighborhood, the next story comes in from Afghanistan. I think it is an interesting story when India put out news that there is a technical team of sorts that is going to be deployed at the embassy of Kabul, coordinating the relief efforts and the humanitarian efforts that India has been continuing within the country. This on the background of growing Indian footprint within Iran and the talks with regards to high-level talks that have been taking place between India and Iran. I think all of you would know that last month, the Iranian foreign minister was here and he was accorded a very, very important protocol, with a personal audience with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. One of the things that is a newsmaker in Iran today is kind of the failing nuclear talks, or the JCPOA, as some of you might know it. There has been a bit of a rife between Iran, Israel, Iran and USA. On the other hand, the Iranians are reportedly speaking to the Saudis on a bilateral platform. So the Middle East seems to be in a churn, and India seems to be smack dab in the middle of it. The work at the Chabahar port is going on, and the trials, as we all know, as I mentioned in one of my updates earlier programs, is that the North and South corridor transportation trial has been going on. A lot of you might have missed, this news, but sometime in March, the India and Uzbekistan signed an agreement to make maximum use of the Chabahar port. One of the ideas of India to have that Chabahar port is for an access to trade within Central Asia. And this particular subject was also taken up during the India-Central Asia economic dialogue that took place recently. One of the things that has made news about the G20 Summit, which is ongoing in Indonesia right now, our Foreign Minister EAM Jaishankar is there at the moment. He's met the Chinese ambassador, he's met the Russian ambassador, and many others on the sidelines of the G20 Summit. As some of you would know, India takes over the presidency of the G20 Summit in December, and he's looking at hosting some of those summits within the country. The big newsmaker came in when India announced that a couple of the meetings of the G20 Summit shall take place in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. As usual, we saw a response from the Pakistanis and the Chinese, for that matter, putting a sort of a reservation from the Chinese side and a protest from the Pakistani side to try and kind of push back India from its plans to hold the G20 Summit within Jammu and Kashmir. India kept quiet for a little bit, and yesterday we got a news that India will not only hold the G20 Summit in Jammu and Kashmir, but also will do it in Ladakh. That ticks a bit of a button in China, I'm sure. This on the background of Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally calling up Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, on his birthday, and the Minister of State for External Affairs, Meenakshi Lekhi, being in a ceremony organized by the Tibetans within Delhi. This particular thing has been protested by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Comes as no surprise. India has also resumed its negotiations for the free trade agreement between India and the European Union. We know that there is some sort of an oil trade which is taking place between the two regions. And I think with the last visit of the European Commission, President Ursula von der Leyen, who came in here, and the discussions have gotten some speed. One of the big news, let's talk about this, the whole Khalistani issue, wherein there is a TV channel called KTV that was running in the UK after it was found out that there were certain programs that was encouraging young British Sikhs and Punjabis to travel into Punjab and commit violent action to achieve the so-called independence these Khalistanis seek. Britain has been a hub of these activities, and I think diplomatically, India has been taking up this matter with the United Kingdom. It'll be a little bit of an interesting thing to see who we will try and take up this matter next, post the reappointment of a new prime minister within the UK. United States, this is my next story, has offered critical technology to develop India's 5th generation fighter jet. And this is something that we see coming from France. We see this coming from the United States as well. And this was reported by the Eurasia Times. It's an interesting bit of news where you see the development of India-US trade. And I think India has jumped up in a bit of notches with regards to being one of the largest, or 7th or 8th largest trade partners of the United States. The French aero engine, and going forward with a little bit of defense news, wherein the French aero engine maker Safran will invest $150 million in an engine making facility in India for LEAP technology engines, which will be used in A320 series. That is an interesting development, considering India has been looking for engine technology for the past 30 odd years. Looking at a little bit of an issue with the Chinese, I think this was reported just a couple of days back. Vivo as a company has come into a bit of focus when the ED, which is investigation agency within India, raided 40 locations within Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and few other southern states in connection with an ongoing case linked to this particular Chinese firm. The case is already being investigated by the CBI. India's agency actually said that it blocked about 119 bank accounts of Vivo, which were holding about 4.65 billion rupees, or that is about $58.76 million, as part of a probe into alleged money laundering done by the Chinese smartphone maker. The enforcement directorate also said that it raided the locations, as I said, and it was alleged that the proceeds that were being sent were being transferred out of India to show losses and avoid paying taxes, as was being done by this company. Vivo in India, and this is something which is being reported. I cannot be verifying this particular news, but this was reported in certain news outlets, wherein 50%, or about 62,476 crores worth of its turnover to China was sent across by this method to avoid paying taxes within India. Another news that came out about this particular thing is that 2 directors of the Vivo unit India, I'm sorry, the Chinese names are a bit difficult for me to pronounce, but I'll try my best. Wu Zhengzin and Zhang Zi have already fled India. These guys were pretty much, I believe they've fled India using some fake documents through Nepal. And the Vivo as a company has come out and said that there is no wrongdoing. One wonders why these directors would flee. On the sidelines of the G20, as I mentioned, Indian Foreign Minister Mr. Jaishankar, as well as the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, met and discussed again the same issues pending between both the countries. One of the issues obviously was the LAC border standoff. Sometime back I'd done a video with General Bhatia where we discussed the potential of an upcoming talk between India and China, but that doesn't seem to be happening, as the update from the Ministry of External Affairs talks about a date that is not being fixed as of now. I'd like to actually, give you a small bit of news, not very important, considering, the fracas within the Eastern Europe and Lithuania being in the news. India has also actually gone ahead and proposed an opening for a new Indian mission in Lithuania in 2022 in order to deepen political strategic cooperation between both the countries. I think that that's a very standard dialogue, but it's interesting to see Indian footprint going into the Baltics. India also participated in the Colombo Security Conclave, which was held on the 7th of July, and it was hosted by the, it was hosted in the Maldives. They were basically, this particular conference is done between India, Mauritius, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, wherein delegations from Bangladesh and Seychelles were also participants as observers. This is interesting considering the needs of India to actually secure its maritime boundary. And that is something that India has been looking at for the past some time. A large group of, this is before I go into the next couple of news, it's probably not diplomacy related, but these are something that affect Indian diplomacy abroad, especially concerning Pakistan, wherein a news was reported that a large group of foreign terrorists recently infiltrated into the Kupwara sector, and this will probably lead into certain trouble within that particular region. This to me looks at a sort of a rebuff coming from Pakistan for the whole news of the G20 being held up in Kashmir. Indian Army has also conducted a large-scale exercise in Ladakh. Funnily, it was known as Exercise Blitzkrieg. For those of you who don't get the context, Blitzkrieg is a German term for lightning war, which was used by the German army in the Second World War. One of the biggest defense-related news, and this of course affects diplomacy for India, is that the Indian Tejas, which is the light combat aircraft, seems to be pretty far ahead in the race as far as the Malaysian acquisition of a light combat aircraft for its own air force is concerned. I think India has gone ahead and sweetened the deal with regards to opening a facility for the maintenance of the aging Malaysian Su-30s, where I think the Malaysians are finding a little challenge to get spares. This sort of a plan has also been put across to the Egyptians, and I believe the Malaysian Air Force, certain senior, a delegation of some senior officers are supposed to visit India in the next some time to kind of finalize or move forward within this particular two-part deal. As far as some other news is concerned, I've actually mentioned about the North-South corridor, and that's something that we see and we need to keep a track of. I'd be doing a video with someone, an expert in the field of India and Iran relations, to actually deeply analyze what is happening in that region. I'm also preparing for a video with regards India and Afghanistan and the growing dynamic within that particular region to try and analyze if there is something that we need to keep a track of. Well, that's all for now. I'd like to request all of you to like my channel, comment. It'll be really nice to hear your reviews or your feedback about these new series that I've started with regards to diplomatic and various different news updates coming from the focus areas that I'd like to look into: China, India, Pakistan, and of course, the war in Ukraine. On that note, I request you all to kindly subscribe to my channel. And if you would like to help me, please click the thanks button, which will take you to a page that will help you to support DevTalks. Till next time, for another update on another geopolitical situation, Jai Hind.